Data. Every single day we are creating and amassing more and more data. And this data is becoming the cornerstone for companies to plan for the future. Hello everyone and welcome to the Thought Leader Chats. I'm Ronald van Loon. And today I host a podcast with the founder of Dataflock. He's an author, he's a keynote speaker, Dr. Mark van Rijmenam. And we are here to speak about the importance of data and data storage using a hybrid cloud solution. And as the founder of a data-driven company and the author of 3 books focused around data, he will share his expertise on the importance of data and data storage as companies begin to automate their decision-making process. He will also discuss a few of the ways that data can be used and can be stored, and why those solutions are not always the best, and the importance of collecting and utilizing non-biased data. Now please join me as I engage with Mark on these topics. Welcome to Hybrid Cloud, Future-Proof Your Business Journey. And I'm here today with Mark van Rijmenam. Mark, you're founder of Dataflock, your author, your thought leader, your influencer. We studied at the same university. Welcome. It's a pleasure to talk to you today about hybrid cloud. Maybe you can give a short introduction about yourself as well.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ronald. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to talk about hybrid cloud and basically datafying your business, preparing yourself for tomorrow. I am Mark van Rijmenam. I'm the founder of Dataflock, which is a content platform around emerging technologies such as big data, blockchain, and artificial intelligence, where we help organizations understand these technologies and how to move forward. I'm also indeed the author of 3 books: Think Bigger about Big Data, Blockchain, about blockchain, and the organization of tomorrow about how to integrate and combine big data, blockchain, and artificial intelligence in your organization. We live in very exciting times where everything is about data, so I'm very excited to talk to you about data and hybrid cloud and how you can use that within your organization.
Yes, and I'm Ronald van Loon. I'm director at the data analytics consultancy firm. I'm a vlogger, blogger, webinar host. I start an AI coaching series within a month, and I'm Simply Learn's course advisor for big data as well. And I think special thanks to Oracle for facilitating this podcast. Special thanks to it, and to shortly explain about hybrid cloud. If we talk about hybrid cloud, on one hand we have cloud solutions, on the other hand we have cloud at customer, and the third one is having it at premise. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Why is this important? And if we talk about why this is important, maybe we start a little bit with some background. Why is this? Is it a hype or is it really going on? And why is it so important? And if I talk to C-level executives and what are really their concerns every day, then it's often not their direct competition. It's really thinking about how to improve the customer experience and how to prevent competition from all different kind of angles. We have these tech vendors, leading tech vendors who improve the customer experience. And it doesn't matter basically whether you are in construction or whether you're in oil and gas, where you see there's some kind of digital rain right now, or whether you are in smart cities, or you're in transportation, or in different type of sectors where you can see it's some kind of digital storm already. But if you are in media, or you're in finance, or you are in retail, or you are in telecom, there's really a tropical storm right now. You have to be data-driven. And if you look to end users, they want to have a great personalized experience, whether device they are using, whether it's the mobile, whether it's the tablet, but also every device, which is now connected. Every business is connected. That means you have a total experience with everything what you do. And if we then talk about the core is data. And luckily we are talking every day about data, which is our passion. But what we see as well is that it's forecasted by Gartner that in 2020, 85% of all interactions will be digital. And the question is for organizations, how to survive in such an environment. And data analytics, I think, is a very important answer. And cloud and hybrid cloud is a foundation for this. Mark, you are also an expert in data, big data management. Can you explain why you think it's so important?
Well, I think what we see happening is that, as you correctly mentioned, data is everywhere, and data is really—I don't really like the term, but it's the oil of the 21st century. But what you see is that it enables you to understand, as an organization, the wider context of your business. And if you understand the context, and if you become a data-driven business, research has shown from IDC that you are 23 times more likely to acquire customers. So you have a very strong incentive as an organization to start using your data and start analyzing it. But what I also notice is that a lot of organizations are still struggling with what to do with this data. It's sort of the big elephant in the room. You know that you need to do something with it, but you're not really sure what. I think for organizations, it is important to understand that data is the new oil, although we might not like the term, but it is the new oil, and you need to do something with it. And moving towards a solution or an environment where you have access to the data, where you can use it, and where the right employees and management have the insights from the data, I think that's very important. But it is, as I said, for a lot of organizations, it's challenging to understand how to do that. So I hope we can uncover some of the tips here about how we think organizations should do that. But this is an important area for organizations to be aware of.
Yeah, and I would like to talk a little bit about technologies which are related to, on one hand, the cloud, but also working with data. And one nice example, I wrote an article 2 months ago about big data platforms and basically open data platforms. And I think the best example for this is the app stores, where we see in traditional processes, if you want to buy new software, and especially in the B2B, we know it from the app stores in the B2C business. But what you see now is also in the B2B domain, where more and more companies start opening up their platform to the external world and gave the possibility to develop apps on top of it. And if you think from a business perspective, initially you always had to go through a process. If you wanted to buy new software, you have your criteria, you have your vendor selection, you have maybe a POC, you test it, and then you go through your selection of your purchasing process, and then you start your implementation. And often you're half a year, 6 months, 12 months, you're further down the line before you have something running. If we look to the concept, what's happening now is that more and more companies opening up their digital platform to the world, where they have to give the possibility to develop apps. And this is with this new data platforms possible nowadays, and where you just can select an app, you test it, take 3, one works best, you have it running within a couple of hours, sometimes days. So there's a big shift in this. And I think if we look to cloud, hybrid cloud as foundation for this, it's very important. Do you notice this trend as well if you look to data platforms that are more and more open up? And what's your view on this?
Well, I think what's happening is that we see a trend towards platformization. You say that towards that organizations become platform organizations, and it's sort of a rightly, as you say, so that you want to make it easy for your customers to start using your products, and having a sort of an app store, whether that's like the Apple App Store or the Google App Store or Salesforce App Store, that really helps to make it easy to work with different tools and to integrate with different solutions. And I think that's a trend which I'm very happy to see happening, because it means that a big data project doesn't have to take 18 months anymore. As we have seen in the past years, when you really had to develop everything yourself, organizations had to take a long time to move ahead. And that is changing now. So it's easier to integrate different services, even from different providers, within your own organization, and therefore have a better understanding of the context, a better understanding of your customers, your suppliers. And I think that's what it's all about, gaining this insight in the context of your organization.
Yeah, and especially from the end user perspective, having intelligent apps developed quickly, providing a better user experience by combining this data is great. And if we look then at intelligent apps and think about the role of data combined with AI, data is what you mentioned, the oil. It's not it's a popular term, but it's something that we basically don't want to use. But if you have an example, so I Twitter and post on social media all day, and I use speech recognition all day. So I talk to my phone, it transfers it into text, and it posts it via to my social media. And this is where you use AI. So you have the voice to text and the transformation, which is all about data. And whether you're talking about voice to text, or whether it's image recognition, video recognition, whether it's sound analysis, whether it's anomaly detection in B2B, everywhere you basically use data. What do you see as the role and the importance of data in the domain of AI?
Well, I think data is the prerequisite to do something with AI in the first place. And to give an example of how I look at data and within organizations, in my last book, I created a model for organizations how to become sort of a data-driven business. And I call it the D square plus A square model, which basically means you need to datafy your organization, you need to distribute your data, you need to analyze it, and you need to automate it. And so you need to datafy by using the Internet of Things to turn analog processes into digital processes. You need to distribute it, whether it's through the cloud, the hybrid cloud, or even through blockchain if you work with external partners. You need to analyze it using descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. And finally, you need to automate it, whether that's using artificial intelligence or maybe smart contracts. But there's a reason why automation is the last part of this model, because only when you have a clear understanding of the data that you have, it's stored correctly, you know what to do, only then can you start to automate your organization. So having the data is important, but having the right data and of the right quality is important, because if your data is biased, or if your data is of low quality, you can't automate your business. There's no way you can use artificial intelligence. So I think for organizations that want to start using artificial intelligence, that's the first starting point. Collect the data, make sure it's of high quality, make sure it's not biased, which is very, very difficult. Everything we do, we are biased persons, people, and getting that bias out of the data is very, very important.
Yeah, so it's definitely, and I think we can go in more depth later on. But if we look to collecting data, there's a big change coming now. It's the rollout of 5G, which is started globally right now in different type of countries, and where 5G has the capability to speed up 1,000 times the data distribution, and it has 50 times lower latency. So these are nice figures, but it doesn't ring a bell. But it gives, for example, the possibility, if you are a driver, for a truck driver in India, and especially on construction sites, you can drive a truck in the US by watching it totally on a distance with the help of 5G. Or you have this immersive experience with 8K screens, which gives a totally different experience. Another example is the possibility for telecom service providers to open up their platform and develop apps on top of it. With 5G will facilitate that tremendously. What kind of impact do you see that's going to happen with 5G, and where 5G is important in the whole chain? We have the chips that do the processing, we have the 5G and 4G that's collecting the data, we have let's say the cloud where we store it, we have the application on top of it where we do the analytics, and we have the apps where we provide the user experience. What's the role of 5G in this new data landscape?
Well, I think 5G is a very exciting development happening, and to talk a bit about the latency, why that it is so important. Let's say you have a self-driving car, and the cloud is in America, and you're driving it here in the Netherlands. If the latency is too long, the time it takes from the data from the car to the database and back to the car, if that's like a couple of milliseconds, that's already a couple of meters on the road. And if you need to brake because there's a traffic jam, that's too late. So that's why this latency is so extremely important, that it needs to go down, and that's why 5G is so promising. If you look at the possibilities of 5G in a data-driven organization, I think it's this latency and the possibility to have truly real-time insights into your organization of what's happening. Because that's what you want as an organization. As an organization, you want real-time insights in what's happening. At the same time, if you have real-time insights, that also, of course, changes your culture, changes how you can lead and how you can manage your business. Because real-time insights require real-time actions, and that's something a lot of organizations need to think about. Because in the past we had like monthly reports or maybe weekly reports. So as a manager, you had to make important decisions once a week or once a month, and now you have to do that in real time. So I think the consequences of having real-time data, thanks to, for example, 5G, is that you see there's more empowerment within the organization, because if the CEO has to make real-time decisions all the time, obviously that's not going to work. So you need your senior management or lower management or even the employees that face the customer to be able to make these real-time decisions and therefore create a better server product for your customers.
Yeah, so that's a nice bridge, I think, moving to IoT, where we can connect every device wherever it is by connecting it via 5G. So we have this fast data transfer. But on the other hand, we are able to measure everything. We can measure all the data. And to give an example, if you have a compressor, normally a compressor manufacturer, they sell compressors. But if they can start measuring everything and they can start measuring air and the movement of air, you can change your business system. So if we connect 5G with IoT and the capabilities of measuring everything, and we can start measuring different kind of metrics than what we used before, you can change your business system. And instead of, let's say, selling compressors, you can start selling air movement. And you can calculate based upon this, which you cannot do it and take action. The CEO cannot take the action and measure it anymore. So it's all going to move real time. So what kind of impact do you see that IoT and connecting every device brings in the data landscape?
Well, IoT is what is going to cause the massive data flood that's coming our way. You know, I think they say it's about 163 zettabytes of data every year in a couple of years' time, which is an very large amount of data, 163 zettabytes. But 90% of the data will be Internet of Things data. Will be data from machines, from in your factory, or will be car data. It will be data that is being created by the machines and not by humans. The advantage of having machines creating data is that it's structured data, so that helps you sort of with the getting a better understanding of the data and analyzing it. But having machines create the data within your organization, that's so important. That's why in my model I say, you need to first datafy your business using the Internet of Things. Because only if you have the data, then you can do something with it, and then you can start to understand how your business is changing. And I think the potential that the Internet of Things has is enormous. However, moving towards the Internet of Things is very, very challenging as well, as we have seen many times already, is that from a security perspective, if you have an Internet of Things platform within your organization, that is challenging. A couple of years ago, we saw the internet going down because of IoT devices which had been hacked, and I foresee a serious problem there if organizations don't take this serious. So it's a combination of, yes, it has the tremendous potential using the Internet of Things to create data. However, it also you have to take it seriously as an organization to make sure that the security of your IoT devices and the data that it's collected is secure, which unfortunately is not always the case.
And last technology I would like to address is blockchain. You've written a book about it, where blockchain, I think it's really most applied in the supply chain right now. What do you see? You've written your book. What kind of trends do you see in relation to data and data management?
Well, I think it's very important to first note that blockchain is not a solution to every problem. I think there are two ways when you need blockchain. It's when there's a trust issue and when there's a transaction going on. So transactions happen almost all the time. We are transacting at the moment as we speak. And then there might be a trust issue because we trust each other and because we know each other. If you share data within your organization, there's transactions going on, but the trust issue is not really necessary because you are part of the organization. So blockchain becomes very important when you start to share data with industry partners, because then you not necessarily know or trust that partner, and you want a blockchain solution for that. Now, we are talking about enterprise blockchain solutions here, not of course public chain solutions, which is I think is a little bit of a different ballgame.
And not cryptocurrency.
Yes, yeah. So and from that perspective, I think blockchain and supply chains, I think blockchain is the gold standard for supply chains, because it completely changes the business of working together with industry partners. If we are in the flower business, for example, and we want to send a bouquet of tulips to America, we need a stack of papers as high as the tulips that we're sending, which is kind of weird if you think about it. And with blockchain, we can get rid of all those papers, and everyone has a single source of the truth, as well as we can sort of incorporate smart contracts, sort of if this then that statements, but then automated and immutable, where we say, well, if the flowers are transported in a container with temperature which is too high, then automatically I as a buyer pay less. And there's nothing I have to do about it. We agree upon that before we send the flowers, and when it happens, it happens. And I think that's some of the true benefits that blockchain can bring to organizations, is to make the supply chain a lot more effective and a lot more efficient. And by doing that, saving a lot of money, which hopefully can also be brought back to the customer.
Definitely. Let's dive a little bit more into the hybrid cloud, and especially to some market developments that we see. And if we look to the size of the cloud market, I think it's even increasing to $200 billion right now. But if we look to some more detailed statistics, we see that 74%, this is a forecast by Forrester, 74% of the companies think about working with a hybrid cloud. So having a cloud solution combined with cloud at customer, combined with on-premise data. Because many companies still have a lot of on-premise data which need to be secure, which they want to have safe in their environment. There are different type of reasons why they do this. Other type of, let's say, statistics that we see is that 39% of companies that start working with AI intend to work on the cloud with their solutions. What type of market trends and market statistics do you see right now if we talk about hybrid cloud, talk about cloud at customer, and on-premise?
Well, I think what we see happening is that you clearly see this move towards the cloud and the hybrid cloud, because having just on-premise data in silos, I think that doesn't really help you if you want to automate your business. If you work in silos, and a lot of organizations are created or built up in silos, where the one business department doesn't want to share data with the other business department. And I think that's something that slowly organizations start to see, that they need to break down those silos if they want to do something with it. And I think a hybrid cloud solution offers the benefits of having the data available to anyone within the organization that needs to have access to it, and as well as start to combine the data. And with the flood of data coming our way, I think 60% of the data is enterprise data, but only a third of that data is being used to analyze. And I think that one of the problems is because the data is in silos. So once we start moving towards a cloud solution, the hybrid cloud solutions, organizations are better able to use that data, and hopefully we can bring up the level of percentage of data being used for analytics, because that offers you the insights. So we need to move to an environment where you as an organization have access to the data, where all the different employees that for example, face the customer, have access to the insight of that data, and therefore you need a solution in the cloud, a combination of hybrid as well.
Yeah, and next to technology, we have also the people, the culture, the organizational structure. If we look to the market, we see many organizations, we're explaining it already, and C-level executives, they're talking about developing a data strategy, set their vision, trying to set up an environment where they provide access to the data, high quality data, where they organize teams with different type of background, especially for this bias. It's important that you have different background from different ethnicities, from men, women, different type of experience. So the bias is as less as possible, but it can be very hard because talent is very hard to get. If you want to have a culture where people are not data driven, but they need to be data hungry. And this change is not so easy. So what kind of developments do you see within organizations if we look to culture, to organization structure? Because if you want to change your culture, you often need to change your organizational structure as well.
Absolutely, and I like the example you gave earlier about if you're moving to air as a service, because where you want to move to as an organization is sort of you want to become a data organization, and not so much a product organization. And I think that's the change that we see happening. And an example I always give is that if you want to become a data organization, let's take for example a car manufacturer. A car manufacturer is, in the traditional sense of the word, is a product company. They make cars.
Correct.
But I think they should be a a data organization that is in the business of helping people move from A to B. And whether they make cars or whether they make a self-driving car or an app or whatever, it doesn't really matter. They're in the business, they're a data organization helping people move from A to B. And that should be the starting point. And that requires a total shift in perspective. It's like a gestalt shift. You know, when you can see the rabbit or the duck, but you can't see them both. It's a very famous image. And that's sort of the shift that organizations need to go through. But if you want to go through a gestalt shift within your organization, that of course, requires your organization to change, and from a culture perspective, because people are not used to think the way are not used to think like that. And changing culture, when we talk about people, that's always the hardest part. Technology can be built, data can be collected, but changing the culture, that's the hardest part. And I think that's where you see that organization will struggle, because there are a lot of reasons why people don't want to change, and often they are very valid reasons. But if you want to move ahead, you have to change your culture as well.
So if we look from an enterprise perspective, if we look to the challenges and especially to the technology stack, where if we look to the data collection, where we use AI, and especially in data quality, in automatic labeling, where the technology stack, if we look to the database, where we see more and more, on one hand, challenges to maintain it, but which can be automated with an autonomous database, where you do have AI and machine learning for automatic patching, for improving the security, for improving the availability. If we look to AI, how it's used in the technology stack is with intelligent applications. If you look what you see with different type of companies from an enterprise perspective and from a technology perspective, what are typical challenges that you see?
What I see with enterprise organizations is that the more they move towards AI in their business, the more they use AI to develop their products and services, almost the more humane they become. The more focused on human, more customer driven they become. Because if you have AI, for example, if you have an automated database where you have the self-patching, the self-securing database, then your IT management can focus more on innovation, can focus more on creating and building the products that are you want to have for your customers. And I think that's sort of the challenge that enterprises face, is how to create this automated autonomous database, how to free up your IT staff so that they can focus on other things than doing the boring part of the job, securing and patching your database. And I think that's where you want to move towards to, is that you focus on taking the work away from your for example, your IT staff, for example, using an autonomous database, and having them focus on other parts of the work which could lead to more innovation and better products.
And if we look now more, these are, let's say, the market type of developments. If we look more to the challenges that we see within organizations, and then we can look at the organizations from different kind of perspectives. But let's look at, let's say, people and culture. And what we see a lot is that organizations tend to be more specific. So if we look to trends in the market, what we see is that if they develop new skills, they develop skills that are very specific, whether it can be, let's say, developing data scientists with focusing on labeling, the other one focusing on algorithms, the other one focuses on big data, the other one's on machine learning algorithms. Is this something that you see as well within the data organization, that you get much more specialisms developing within the organization instead of we have a data scientist who can do everything?
Yes, I agree. Because if you have a data scientist that does that, a data scientist that does everything, and he or she also needs to annotate the data, and he or she also needs to tag the data, which you really don't want to have a data scientist to do, because you want the data scientist to focus more on the challenging parts. So I think you need different parts of the process of collecting and analyzing and the data require different skills, and therefore require different people to do those skills. And once however, the different skills, they need to collaborate and work together. So you still need this multidisciplinary team of data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, machine learning specialists, but even marketing people or even finance people, to work in a team together to come up with a solution that you're looking for. Because only when you have a multidisciplinary team, I think you can really create the best outcome for your customers and for your product.
And then looking more to the challenges, and especially from enterprise perspective, and if we look to the stack again, what are typical challenges? We were talking about it already. You have data silos, big challenge where you have data in the cloud already. Most companies have already a cloud solution. Some are a cloud at customer. Every company has basically data on premise, where the data collection is a big challenge. We're having it from the different sources. Data quality is one of the big issues right now. But also, if we look to different challenges, is the performance. If you have this data, you have it collected, how to get it to your intelligent app. Database performance is very important for this. If you have it spread over your organization, it's hard to retrieve, hard to have it available. What are typical challenges that you see within organizations in their technology stack that they have right now?
Well, I think what I see is that your organization working with different providers for their different solutions within their business. I think that's when it becomes really challenging. You basically want to have one provider, one vendor offering you the cloud solution, the cloud environment, but also the on-premises environment, so that they can talk to each other in a much easier fashion. It's sort of having the same as silos within your organization. Then you have silos of vendors that need to talk to each other and need to be aligned. And I think that's really challenging. You want to work with one party that can help you build your cloud environment, so that it is for everyone. It's easy to get access to the data and to mix the data basically for better insights.
Yeah, and then let's say what we all want to achieve is this intelligent apps, but what's important is the cost. Yeah. So how much does it cost? And if we look to the cloud, there's so much data stored, every penny counts. So that's, I think, one of the big challenges for organizations, how to find the best total cost of ownership. On the other hand, they want to have an agile solution. They have often challenges with defining the workflows within organizations, where you said, okay, it's maybe better to have one service provider. What kind of challenges do you see? One more thing, I think what's important and what's a big challenge is if we look to analytics. Companies they start with analytics, they want to go more in depth, and at a certain moment they face all different kinds of technology challenges. What are challenges that you see that customers face right now if we look from a customer perspective?
Well, first of all, is having the right people to build that environment. Obviously, if you want to become a data-driven organization, you need to have the right people to right skills within your organization to build the data-driven products. I think that's a massive challenge. Because only if you want to create this data-driven environment, you need to have big data engineers, data scientists. Well, we just talked about a machine learning specialist, and they are difficult to find and they're expensive. So from a cost perspective, finding the right people is difficult and expensive. I think that's a major challenge that organizations face at the moment. Fortunately, we see also that the more data scientist educations are coming up, so that sort of will help, but it takes time. I think from a technology stack perspective, you mentioned already the sort of the data governance, the data quality. The garbage in means garbage out. So if you collect it incorrectly, if you don't annotate it correctly, it becomes very difficult to use and very difficult to benefit from it. And I think as an organization, you want to make sure that in the entire process of collecting and storing the data, you always have the high quality data. And I think it's a well-known statement. You need high quality data. You need a lot of data, but you need high quality data. So if you don't have that, it's kind of useless what you're doing.
Yeah, and you were mentioning already, it's people. People is the most important part, but I think it's the hardest part to change as well. Maybe give an example from a bank who did a change to an agile organization, and they changed from one day in the other day with 2,000 people, which was amazing. And I haven't seen so many organizations dare to do this and managed to do this. But where they changed the organizational structure to agile teams, small teams between 7 and 9 people with different, let's say, disciplines mainly. But if we look to bias, it's not important only to have different disciplines where you have a data scientist, but also people from marketing, from sales, from operation, from service providing. It's also important to have this different background, because otherwise you have this bias, because everybody has a past, and in this past they have a certain mindset and they create a certain bias. But if we look to AI, in the end, organizations are responsible if the system says no, or the system crashes a car against a tree. who is responsible. And I think more and more the trend will be that the organizations are responsible. So a data-driven culture is key, and how to manage this. So what do you see as the core challenge if we look to organization and culture with regards to creating this data-hungry culture?
Well, I think the challenge that we would face is when you start to work with AI and with the biases that we people bring, regardless if we intend to bring those biases or not. In the end, you have an AI that is sort of a black box. And if you have a self-driving car and the car crashes, you sort of want to know why the car crashed. I wrote an article basically this week about it, that AI algorithms are black boxes, and we need sort of explainable AI, sort of AI being able to explain itself why it did what it did, to understand what's going on. And the more an organization moves towards a data-driven organization, the more that becomes important. Because if the data says no, or the system says no, that can be very bad for you as an organization. You can lose revenue. For example, you have an algorithm that decides whether or not you're allowed to get a loan. And if the algorithm gives you, the customer, a loan, while actually it should not get a loan, that's bad for the bank, because it has a bad customer which might not be able to, which might default. But the other way around, if we have a good customer in which the system says no and doesn't give a loan, that's also bad for the customer because he or she doesn't get a loan, and it's bad for the bank because the bank misses revenue. So we want to know as an organization why a certain decision has been made. And the more we become a data-driven organization, the more we use machine learning algorithms, and the more we move to an automated business, the more important it becomes to have sort of this explainable AI, to sort of know why a certain decision was made, and even to overrule that if need be. This is a massive challenge I see, because we have no idea how the algorithms work. Hopefully the organizations know, but often even the organizations don't know how it works anymore. And especially what you see happening where AI is starting to create AI, that creates AI.
With unsupervised learning.
Yes. Then we have no idea anymore how that child AI works. And if that child AI then starts to make decisions on behalf of us, on behalf of the organization, and we can't do anything about it, I think we have a serious problem.
Yeah, and we cannot test it anymore. So,
yes,
which becomes a challenge.
Yeah, and we need to, therefore, it's a real call to organizations to start building explainable AI that helps you understand why certain decisions are made, and to allow you to overrule if need be. And I think that's a massive challenge.
So now talk more about what should organizations do. If we look especially then from a technology perspective, how should they manage the data? It's not easy. You mentioned some organizations they're working for years, 10, 20 years on the same process. So if we look from a data perspective, what's important with data collection? So you should have a data management solution where you're able to retrieve your data from the different sources, whether it's cloud type of data, whether it's on cloud at customer or on-premise type of data, where it's important whether it's structured, unstructured, whether it's real-time data like the IoT type of data, whether it's experience data, whether it's, let's say, more the organizational, operational type of data, whether it's social data, all these different types of data you want to have access to. You want to have it available. If you really need it available fast, if you have applications running, you have hot data that you need to retrieve in a fraction of a second, and you have more cold data which you can store for a longer time. But you want to be able to retrieve it fast, where you now have new technologies like persistent memory to retrieve it faster, where you have technologies like, let's say, in cache to retrieve data faster. You don't want to have the hassle. You want to have more an autonomous database that can take care for itself and reduces the cost. On the other hand, you want to build machine learning and AI type of rules on to get the right data, to take care for your quality, take care for your governance, take care for your security, take care even now for your data assurance. So which steps have we taken to assure that you're doing the right thing? All in the end to get applications that improve the customer experience. Right. What kind of examples do you see if you look to organizations? What should they do? And it's a theoretical discussion. It's easier than do it in practice. But what do you see?
Yeah. Well, if you want to create these intelligent apps that are there to work for your customer, I think if you take care of your customer, the customer will take care of your shareholder.
Yeah.
So creating the best product, the best service for your customer using intelligent apps, that's your end goal. But it starts here. You start with the data collection, and that's again a people part as well.
Yeah.
The example about a large logistic provider, when they started to move to the cloud, they found that they had 175 ways of writing Walmart in their database. This is I'm excited. I have no idea how you can come up to 175 ways of writing Walmart, but apparently it's possible. And that's of course the data quality. That's a human part of the business. So if you want to create intelligent apps, it starts all the way at the people again, making sure that everyone understands why you collect this data, how it should be collected, why it should be of high quality. Having this understanding is the starting point to create intelligent apps. Because if you don't have that, then you will never have those intelligent apps, and you will never have intelligent products for your customer. So I think starting once you have done that, you have the data collection in order. Then comes the whole technology part. The technology is like how to store that data, where to store that, on premises, off premises, in the cloud, hybrid, etc. But it starts with collecting the data in the right way.
Yeah, and if you have your data collection in place, and then you can start think differently. You can change your organization on one hand, but you can also start developing your organization more towards a service organization. And to give an example, you have a manufacturer of elevators who initially, let's say, sold elevators and serviced them, but now start becoming a service provider by predicting when an elevator will break down and start doing predictive maintenance. So they call the customer, say, hey, your elevator will go down within a week or so, and we can maintain it right now, and we will solve the problem before it even occurs. And even in the further future, they start providing insights to the customer what's going to happen. So they become more an analytics and service provider versus a manufacturer and sales company from an elevator. What type of really great use cases you have seen in the market?
Well, I completely agree with this. It's having this data organization that you want to develop, where you are a data company and not longer a product company. And it's funny that you mentioned the air as a service earlier, because I think that's one of the best examples that there is, where instead of selling massive machines, you sell air, and that's where organizations need to go to become an organization that's no longer selling a big manufacturing machine or whatever, but sells the whole package around it of installing it for free, servicing, and you only pay for your usage. And that's I think the challenge that organizations face is how to get to that point. But I think that's where we need to move to.
And then one last topic, which is also related to Oracle, it's the autonomous database. If, as a database administrator and architect, you want to make it as easy as possible, where you have now the capabilities within databases to do automatic updates with the help of machine learning, to automate your security that can take action just before it even happens. And on the other hand, also take care for other type of optimization, whether it's performance optimization, being having the availability and having the 24/7 availability within databases. What's your experience with developments in the market on database level for optimization and going more towards an autonomous type of database?
Well, if you want to, having an autonomous updates, as you mentioned, I think that's and helping your organization and your customers to have the latest product and the latest software to do whatever they need to do. I think that has tremendous amount of business benefits. Example, I think that's great is you have the Tesla. If you drive a Tesla, overnight you get a whole new Tesla. Well, you don't have to do anything about it. Well, the other car companies, you have to recall millions of cars if there's a mistake.
Yeah.
And there's this over-the-air updates where you use, you can have a data-driven perspective of servicing your customers. I think that's where organizations need to go to, and having doing that from a database perspective to make sure that you have the right technology stack to be able to do so. That's challenging, but I think that's where organizations should look at companies such as Tesla who have this data-driven approach to look differently to their customers.
And if we summarize it all together, what kind of tips do you have for the listeners? Last kind of closing remarks.
Well, it's I think it's a challenging times that we live in, and finding the data that you want to use in your organization is challenging. Ensuring that you have the high quality data is challenging. Building the right technology stack is challenging, but you have great partners to help you with that. But all in all, it comes down to the culture. It comes down to the people. Technology can be built, but there are the people who need to use the technology, whether it's your employees or whether it's your customers who need to start using the technology in the way that you have come up with, or maybe they start using it in a totally different way. So in the end, I think the challenge is it all comes down to people. So if you really want to become a data-driven organization, you should start focusing on your people as well.
Yeah, and I think the people, they can help you with being really customer-focused, customer-centric, and defining what's really needed. On the other hand, you need the best data sets. I've seen organizations with more than 10,000 sources, and then it really becomes a challenge. You need a solid foundation, technology foundation, but there are enough partners who can help you with that. And on the other hand, you need advanced analytics. And I think that's the strategy to go for. But on the other hand, it's not something that you do overnight. It's a long process, and you have to have a strong vision and move into that direction.
Absolutely.
Mark, thanks a lot for your contribution, for having you over here. Thank you, Oracle, for sponsoring this podcast. And thank you here for watching to Hybrid Cloud, your future-proof, your business journey. As data fuels digital transformation efforts from business leaders need to combine technology and people in order to get the most out of it. Mark gives us a model with 4 keys to becoming a data-driven organization based upon his experience and his expertise, and I would like to expand on them. But before we start though, I would recommend, as you go forward with digital transformation, that you keep your employees involved and keep them educated on the value of AI can bring to your company. And this engagement can empower them to make more informed decisions and also include your employees as really being a part of the process. There needs to be a shift in the way your company is viewing data, its storage and its utilization. And changing your perspective can help. And as Mark says, he says it datafies your business. And this will aid in converting your analog processes into the digital ones. And as you begin to digitalize your company, you'll start looking at your data and where it is stored, of course. So data stored in silos is mostly inaccessible and is generally kept for only one department. So you need to make this data available for everyone in your company, within the governance, of course, and you want it all accessible from one place, also managed from one place. So consider cloud solution like a hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud allows for your computing and for your application process to run on both the public and the private cloud, but also on-prem, and giving you the flexibility to shift workloads where they will be most beneficial or will be most efficient. So making your data available to all your employees and your suppliers empowers them to make decisions that helps to optimize operations and productions, cutting back over spending or over production. So when all of your data is available, you can begin to analyze it. And you'll have this new data coming in. But you also have your data from all your legacy systems. And you want to use both of the data sets. So descriptive data, that will help you to read the past trends and get an idea of how your business environment has changed. While predictive data can be used to help you build models and prepare you for the future. And once you have the models built, you can finally begin to implement your AI plans and automate your business. So automation is quite a long process. And there's no strategy like one size fits all. You have to consider your business needs and you know what questions to ask before you can start. So having a firm ground will really help you and keep moving forward. So remember, every organization is a data organization. So staying up to date with data strategies can really empower your whole company to make important, informed decisions, and will really help to optimize your operations. So keep this in mind as you move forward with your digital transformation efforts. If you are interested in more resources to becoming data, every single day we are creating and amassing more and more data. And this data is becoming the cornerstone for companies to plan for the future. Hello everyone and welcome to the Thought Leader Chats. I'm Ronald van Loon. And today I host a podcast with the founder of Dataflock. He's an author, he's a keynote speaker, Dr. Mark van Rijmenam. And we are here to speak about the importance of data and data storage using a hybrid cloud solution. And as the founder of a data-driven company and the author of 3 books focused around data, he will share his expertise on the importance of data and data storage as companies begin to automate their decision-making process. He will also discuss a few of the ways that data can be used and can be stored, and why those solutions are not always the best, and the importance of collecting and utilizing non-biased data. Now please join me as I engage with Mark on these topics.